Welcome to the deep dive. You've shared your sources with us, and we're diving in.
Yeah, really getting into the core insight.
Exactly. Giving you that richer understanding without, feeling overwhelmed by it all.
And we know you're looking for those aha moments.
That's the goal. So today, we're looking at a reflection called The Presence of God is the Secret.
You sent this over, and it seems really relevant. It tackles navigating this, unpredictable world we're in.
Right, by exploring God's presence as maybe an anchor, a source of stability.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the text talks about this secret. We want to unpack that, see what it really offers.
Okay, sounds good. So let's start where the author starts this idea of a shifting world.
Yeah, they set the scene by talking about big changes over the last, 20, 30 years.
And not just tech, right. They mention social, moral, even spiritual shifts.
Definitely. And the contrast they draw is, quite stark. They talk about a past that felt simple, quiet, God-conscious. And they set that against today, which they describe using words like busyness, indulgence, and chaos.
Wow. That's a heavy description. It really captures that feeling of instability, doesn't it?
It does. And, it makes you wonder, does every generation feel like the past was more grounded somehow?
Yeah.
A bit of nostalgia, maybe?
That's a fair question. Maybe we always look back with rose-tinted glasses. But the author uses this image, shifting sands.
Yeah.
That feels pretty visceral, like you can't get firm footing.
Exactly. This speaks right to that feeling of anxiety, of uncertainty. If the ground keeps moving, how do you build anything? How do you feel secure?
And they link that external feeling to an internal state, right? Feeling captive, unhappy, confused, and unsettled.
Deep down, it's not just about what's happening out there, but how it affects us in here.
And there's this idea about the pressure to always want more.
Right. More stuff, more experiences.
And the author suggests this drive can actually lead us to compromise our values.
Yeah, maybe trade away something important for a future that, might not be what we really want.
It seems backwards, doesn't it? Striving for more, leading to less.
It does. And they suggest this creates an emptiness within, a void that, shopping or experiences just can't fill.
Which then leads to a longing for something deeper. They call it supernatural infillings.
Yeah. It raises that question, what are we really looking for when we chase after external things?
Okay, so these compromises, this emptiness, the author argues it has real effects on our thinking, our feelings, our attitude.
Right. It's not just individual. They see it contributing to wider problems, even challenges inside religious communities. It's all connected.
And they use an analogy to make this point, something about the Israelites.
Yeah, the Israelites wandering in the desert. The idea is, they were freed from slavery, heading to a promised land, but they kept messing up.
Okay.
Disobedience, complaining, turning away from God's instructions. And so this journey that should have been shorter just dragged on for decades.
So even with guidance, with evidence of God's help, their compromises led them sort of nowhere. Aimless wandering.
Pretty much. It's a stark picture of how compromise, how straying from the path can lead to instability, even when you know the way.
Okay. So that sets the stage. This feeling of a shifting, uncertain world, the dangers of compromise, which leads to the author's big question.
How do you live with courage, with conviction, when everything feels like it's constantly changing?
And the answer they give, the secret, is
the presence of God.
Right. Though they clarify it's not secret like hidden salvation, it's more about how it works in daily life.
Exactly. How does this presence become active, practical? And they point us to a specific story in the Bible, Exodus 33.
Okay. With Moses.
Yeah, Moses talking directly with God. It's a pivotal moment.
That's where he says, if your presence doesn't go with us, forget it. We're not moving.
Right. That's the one. He sees God's presence as absolutely non-negotiable. Not just nice to have, but essential for, everything. Leading the people, facing challenges.
What does that tell us about how Moses viewed God's presence? What was so crucial about it?
Well, for Moses, it wasn't just about protection. It was about identity. He says essentially, how will anyone know we're your special people? That we've found favor, unless you are with us.
So it's the distinguishing mark, the thing that sets them apart.
Exactly. It's the proof of their relationship with God, their chosen status, and it's what would guide them.
And God's response, it's very personal, isn't it? He says, okay, I'll go because I know you, Moses, you found grace.
It emphasizes that personal connection, being known by name. That seems key. And then God promises to show Moses his goodness, his grace, his mercy.
And this wasn't just abstract talk. The author points out how this presence showed up in concrete ways for the Israelites.
Right, tangible things, like water from a rock when they were thirsty, quail and manna when they were hungry. These weren't just random strokes of luck. They were seen as God providing, his presence making a real difference.
And it wasn't distant help either. The text says God fought for them, gave detailed instructions.
Yeah, very involved, not hands off at all.
And then there were the visible signs, the cloud and the fire.
Right, a cloud by day, think shade in the desert, and a pillar of fire by night for light and warmth. Constant visible reminders. God is here.
Okay, so the author then focuses on Moses' relationship with God, describing it as talking mouth to mouth as friends do. That sounds incredibly close.
It does, and the author uses this to make a point.
Yeah.
Actively engaging with God's presence, like Moses did, invites more revelation, more closeness.
So it's not passive. You have to seek it, be open.
Seems so. The more Moses showed up, was available, the more God seemed to share plans, give instructions.
It's like a two-way street, an interaction. God responds to that seeking. Yeah.
And even grants specific, bold requests, like when Moses asks to see God's glory.
Which is a huge ask.
Huge. And God says, okay, no one can see my face and live. But he doesn't just shut Moses down.
Right. He finds a way, puts him in the cleft of a rock.
Shields him with his hand.
Yeah.
Lets him see his back, a glimpse of that passing glory.
That's amazing favor, really. God meeting Moses' desire in a way he could handle.
It shows God's immense power, yeah, but also incredible mercy, willing to connect, to reveal himself, even within our limitations.
And this moment, the author connects it to, well, to us today. This idea of place beside God, a rock to stand on.
Exactly, which transitions the focus to Jesus Christ.
Referencing Romans 8.34, Jesus at God's right hand praying for us.
Interceding. And it raises an interesting thought the author implies. Was Jesus somehow interceding for Moses even back then in Exodus?
That's fascinating. And they connect the cleft of the rock to Jesus' crucifixion.
Yeah, it's a powerful image. The idea that Jesus being wounded, pierced his back, cracked open, metaphorically speaking, is the opening. The way for us to be reconciled to the Father and experience his glory.
Maybe even more fully than Moses could, like that face-to-face relationship.
That seems to be the implication. So Jesus becomes the ultimate rock.
The solid ground, the foundation for faith, especially in this shaky world.
Right. The author points to 1 Corinthians 15, standing firm in the gospel, having victory through Jesus.
So, stability isn't about the world stopping its shifting.
No. It's about being rooted in something. Or someone who doesn't shift, Jesus Christ.
And living from that place, that secure faith, that's what brings courage and conviction.
That's the argument. Actively engaging with God's presence through Jesus leads to experiencing God's power. Things like healing, confidence, that deep inner stability.
It's not just theory then, it's meant to be experienced. Personal revelations, convictions.
Exactly. And they give examples of people who live this way.
Right, people whose actions seemed, well, maybe crazy from the outside, but were rooted in this conviction from God's presence.
Like Jochebed, Moses' mother, hiding her baby when the order was to kill him. That took immense faith.
Definitely. Or Noah, building a massive boat for a flood no one had ever seen. For years.
Yeah, talk about conviction against the odds. It shows that living in God's presence can give you a perspective, a certainty that just doesn't depend on current circumstances or what everyone else thinks.
It transcends logic sometimes.
It seems to. And then there's Esther, risking her life to go before the king.
After prayer and fasting, actively seeking God's presence and guidance for that dangerous moment.
Precisely. So these aren't just old stories. They're models, the author suggests, for how connecting with God's presence empowers ordinary people to do extraordinary things, to live with courage.
Even when things look bleak.
Especially then, perhaps. Which brings it all back to that central idea.
God's presence is the secret. That consistent connection, that engagement. That's the anchor.
So, to sum it up for you, our listener, in a world feeling chaotic, maybe unpredictable, this reflection suggests God's constant presence, if you actively seek it through faith, offers real courage, solid conviction, and genuine stability inside.
And for you, looking for ways to navigate all this change, seeking those moments of clarity, we hope exploring this secret has sparked some useful thoughts.
Yeah. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. What does it really mean for you, personally, to actively engage with God's presence in your own life? Thinking about Moses, thinking about Jesus as the rock.
How might intentional pursuing that connection actually give you that sure footing you're looking for, right in the middle of your own challenges and uncertainties?
That's definitely something worth mulling over.